Hello everybody and welcome along to the Suzuka circuit for rounds 7 and 8 of the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Japan. And it is race 1 this Saturday afternoon. And we have a packed grid of Ferrari Challenge machines getting ready to go racing here in Suzuka. My name is Ben Constanduris and I am joined by Filippo Zanier, the head of Corse Clienti APAC. Who is much more, he's my expert today and also my passion. Filippo,
Hello,
it's great
Ben.
to have you with us.
Hello, Ben. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone.
So we're going to go racing in just a few moments' time. I think we've got 5 minutes before we go green with our action. And so we're able to run through the season. The calendar was there and you can see that we've got one more round in Japan in August in Sugo, before the Finale Mondiale in October. And this is a Japanese all calendar. Plenty of action already, including the Ferrari race day in Fuji just a few weeks ago. Filippo, a very important weekend for Ferrari to not just have this racing in Japan, but also so many guest cars, the Ferrari race day.
Yeah. Ferrari Racing Days are always, a huge event for us. It's the moment where really a Ferrari festival, the Ferrari family comes together. We have the challenge. We have obviously the road customers that come with their own cars to make parades and experience new cars of the range. And then we have, even more importantly, F1 NX6, our programs, that we run all around the world that give our customers the chance to drive the F1 cars that were part of the Formula One World Championship in the previous years. So it was an incredible event, and for us it was amazing to be finally able to come back to Japan with the Ferrari Racing Day, because the last time was 2018. So, it really felt great.
Yeah, a long time ago. And Suzuka, a place where we've seen similar events across the years from its owners, but the grid is looking well formed of Ferrari Challenge cars. 680 brake horsepower, 3.9 V8 machines. We've got 19 classifications across 4 different categories, so effectively 4 different races within this one race that we'll be seeing kick off in a few moments' time. Let's have a look again at the Suzuka circuit. As I said earlier, built in the 1960s, it's the only circuit that we race at, we have the ability to race at with a crossover, except for one other circuit, which we don't race at, but Fiorano is the only other Grade 1 circuit to have a crossover at it. And I think Ferrari own that one.
Yeah, we do, and we use it. We use it all year long for testing of the range car, for testing of the challenge car that obviously before being delivered to customers, and even the GT3 cars, they do a few miles there, to check that everything is okay, a shakedown. It is a huge commodity to have. It was even more when it was allowed to do private testing in Formula One, because the Scuderia would use it, and we use it a lot to test the F1 cars. Now that is not allowed anymore, so we found other uses for it.
So the grid is cleared, and we are going to go racing in a few moments' time. We've got our warm-up lap, although not a real need to warm much up today. It is pretty steamy out on circuit. We're over 30 degrees air temperature. The track temperature could well be in its 50s now. It was getting close to it as we went GT3 racing. It's actually gone down by a couple of degrees since the GT3 race finished. But 30 degrees air temperature with some cloud. Humidity will start to rise now as we go into the evening. And 42 degrees track temperature. Plenty of experience already for these drivers. We had qualifying earlier on today. They've had practice as well. So everyone happy with the Suzuka circuit?
Yeah. We had actually 2 hours of open practice on Thursday, another hour on Friday, and then 1 hour of free practice before the qualifying of today. Drivers, they love Suzuka. It's a proper old-style circuit. Quite narrow. There is not huge runoff areas. Every mistake is punished, and honestly, most drivers really like this aspect of the track. And it is high speed, a lot of iconic corners, 130R, spoon, so many memories from Formula One races that all our customers have watched here. So yeah, spirits are very high.
I imagine that all of your customers, whether it be the drivers on the grid or indeed just people following, they follow everything that Ferrari does, and so they know their history. Let's have a look at the grid then, and Uchida is on the pole position, as you would expect, but Motohiro Kotani in second position, less expected as we roll through the Pirelli AM category, the Coppa Shell AM category, the Coppa Shell and Coppa Dealer categories are 4 different categories, and we can see the denotion on the different categories with our graphics.
Yeah, the categories, you know, is Coppa Dealer is our sort of manufacturers championship. Obviously, they're all racing with Ferrari cars, so in this case we have a Dealer's Cup. For the rest, the classes are basically arranged to make sure that drivers have competition in their own class, and they always have an achievable objective. So we try to put drivers that have more or less the same level of competitiveness in the same class.
And just running through the rest of our grid, 11 rows, so in fact we've got 22 cars?
Yeah, 22 cars. It's great. We had 26 last week in Fuji. It is honestly, for the first year of a national championship, it is something that we're absolutely happy about. Grid numbers are fully satisfying, and we have plenty of interest for next year, so, you know, really looking good.
The other very interesting thing about this championship is that the drivers are entered through dealers around the country, and that really associates the drivers to a dealer and the dealers to everything that Ferrari do, and makes them really buy into the Ferrari experience as a whole. So you have a little bit of support from Italy, but really this is Japanese Ferrari dealerships running their program.
Absolutely, yes. There is in Japan, since a long time, there is a passion for racing, and our dealers have been working on the challenge cars to a point that as of today there is, yes, a small support coming from Italy, expert challenge technicians, but yes, I would say 75% of the technicians are Japanese and coming from the dealers. So it is very nice to see the network so deeply involved in what we do.
And a nice big awning that they all sit under, making such a spectacular sight to see these cars all being worked on together under the same roof. No secrets then?
No secrets, and also a lot of cooperation. You know, having all the cars in a single place allows that, for example, if a car has a crash, well, not only the dealer mechanics will work on the car, but mechanics from other dealers will go and help. If their car is okay and there is no need to work on their own car, they will go and help the car that needs assistance. And so these, you know, you will see suddenly 7, 8 mechanics working on the same car if it's needed. And that is one of the big positive things of this kind of formula.
Heading round then the chicane at the end of the lap. We are going to go racing in a few moments' time. A rolling start, 2x2 formation, much slower than we saw from the GT3 race a little bit earlier. Cars making their way round the last turn, 2x2, cruising down the hill over the finishing line, but the start line is closer to us at the end of pit lane. It's nicely bunched field, and this is going to be very, very tight going into turn 1. Once those lights turn green, once the guys can drop the hammer, a few stragglers at the back just catching up, but now we go racing, and it's very, very spread out towards the first turn. Uchida has the racing line into turn 1 and switches across the track, but behind they are all trying to work out where the best place to put their car is, and they all have made it through turn 1 and 2, and now to the first challenge of the lap, the S-Bends. Colder tyres than they'll be used to, colder brakes than they'll be used to, and they're just going to see where the car sits in these first couple of corners. Of course, it will come to them as we get to the end of the race, and of course, just a couple of laps really. but it won't quite feel right at the moment, and we've got a car going wide. That's Kotani, I think, who's gone wide at the Dunlop curves and loses 1, 2, maybe 3 positions. Lucky to get away with that, because where the blend between the track and the cut through is a big old jump.
It is, Ben, you know, the difference between doing a fast lap in qualifying and then having, you know, the racecraft to keep it on for the whole race, you know. And these drivers, some of them are beginning, you know, they are the first season of racing, and they are discovering these kind of challenges this year.
Understeer initially through Dunlop, and then that pushed him wide. A little bit of on-throttle oversteer to try and get out of it, but it eventually meant an off-track excursion, and his rally car becoming, for his Ferrari becoming a rally car. Akita, 2nd position. Desket, 3rd position. Then Kotani. And then leader in class, Ueda in 5th spot, as they all come down to 130R for the first time. Another part of the circuit where you need to rely on everything working well on your car. 680 brake horsepower to contend with, not the aerodynamics of a GT3 car to push the car to the ground, and that does make those faster corners a real challenge for these guys. Uchida on his own in the category at the head of the field, but here comes Kotani down the inside, and that moves him back up to 3rd position. So that mistake quickly rectified. Cool livery there in the 66?
Yes, 66 car is a Deske, that is actually a doctor. That has been racing with us for a few years. He was already racing in Challenge APAC in the past, and this incredibly colorful car that matches very well his incredibly colorful character.
I love that. Plenty of colorful characters if you're to a level where you can start racing Ferraris. You've certainly got an interesting story to tell or two, there's no doubt about that. So all the cars exactly the same here. It's just the drivers that are categorized. Like one make racing to really show off what these guys can do in a couple of different categories. So looks as though 138 there, way ahead of the Shell-Am category.
Yeah. This is a new driver that is joining this. That is joining us for this race the first time. So you know, when we categorize drivers, we try to do it based on their level of experience, especially if we never had them before in our car, so we don't know what they actually capable of doing. And Mr. Ueda-san is actually much faster than we expected, given his experience. So yes, for a Shell-Am, definitely fast. Maybe we are up for a recategorization for the next race.
So that's a really difficult challenge to categorize a driver with very little experience. But obviously doing a very good job considering what's on his CV. Right now up in 5th position, fighting with some of the very best. There he is, and holding onto the tail of Desket. Kotani through and creating a 1.5 second advantage now.
Yeah, now Kotani will for sure go and chase Akita. He wants to get back the 2nd position that he lost with that mistake.
And also leading class as well, of course.
Of course.
So that is in Pirelli AM category. Akita sitting 3rd in that championship, with Kotani not with many point scores by the looks of things. So this actually seems to be a much better performance for Kotani than the results suggest.
Yeah, he never lacked the speed, so the speed was there, but there was a certain tendency to, you know, make mistakes. So if he can hold it together until the end, this could be really the best results in challenge so far for him, and we are really rooting for him because he deserves it. The pace is definitely there.
Half an hour race, so a sprint race, no pit stops, having to worry about anything like that. Head down and just get yourself into a rhythm. Uchida with a nice rhythm at the head of the field, 5.2 seconds advantage over the rest of the field, and a target time to try and beat of a 2:09.4. Always nice to have those slightly faster drivers for all of these other less experienced drivers to kind of work up to being.
Well, it is the concept, of the multi-class racing, We want people to have an objective in front of them, So when you are third in Shell and you are maybe just 5/10 off the pole position of your class, well, you push harder and harder to get it, and doing that you improve your driving,
Catani is right onto the tail of Akita straight away.
Yeah, he's lapping 3 to 5/10 faster per lap, which is allowing him to get closer and closer.
Battle for second position then, Akita and Kotani. But probably more importantly, it is the battle for the lead in Pirelli Am. And realistically, these guys will be looking at Uchida's pace up the road and kind of saying, well, this is about as maximum as I can get out of it right now. And for Kotani, that would be a real step up to keep the car on the island for the full 20-minute race, because, I mean, his best result of the year did come last time out in Fuji in race 2. Didn't score any points in race 1. And otherwise, you have to go back to Fuji at the start of the year where he got his next best result. So this would be a chunk load better than that.
It's clear that Uchida in this case, is flying away. There is another driver normally in the Pirelli class, Nobuhiro Imada, that is always tangled in battle with Uchida. They are really fighting each other very hard. But Imada-san this weekend is racing in Formula Regional. He is also a Formula racer, so he's not with us, meaning that, yes, for Uchida this time it looks honestly pretty in the bag.
Bit of breathing space to pick up 2 victories across the weekend here before the last weekend in Suzuka. Also the third category, we haven't spoken much about the Coppa Shell category at the moment, being led by 192, which is Kunihiro. Third in that particular category's championship, got half the points of Kun Chao.
Yeah, Michael Choi, that is the leader of the class. He actually had a double victory in Fuji in the Ferrari Racing Day races, and so it's good to see that in this race here in Suzuka, the other drivers in the class, they're actually giving him a very good challenge.
Yeah, Choi only third, you can see on the timing screens there, 12th position overall, and also one of 2 Hong Kong drivers. Notice they're all Japanese. Obviously, this is effectively a Japanese national championship, but really nice to have drivers from other countries coming and joining you.
Yeah, the championship is open to drivers from all over the world, obviously, but it is a Japanese-based championship on Japanese tracks with Japanese dealers, so it's clear that the majority of the customers will be Japanese. It's also, when we come to Suzuka, there is more interest. It's more difficult to get foreign drivers to get interested in racing in Sugo, or Okayama, for example. But we are working on it, and for next year we are expecting to have a bigger foreign contingent than we had this year.
So when you say we're going racing in Suzuka, they all want to come.
Yeah, that obviously makes a big difference. Suzuka and Fuji, they are very attractive to drivers from all over the world.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because some of these less well-known circuits actually have some, especially in Japan, have some fantastic character to them. And yet, obviously, Suzuka and Fuji are the world-known circuits, but perhaps you could find more fun on some of the little ones.
Oh, look, we had the experience in 2019 where we brought the championship to Motegi. And Motegi, is a track that is very well known in motorbikes, MotoGP races there. but in terms of car racing, not much. Internationally, I raced in Motegi, where when we brought the drivers there, they loved the layout of the track. They found it very, very fun. And I actually look forward to seeing them racing Sugo the next race, because it's a very fast track. So with this car, it's going to be very, very interesting.
Quick look at Iritani in 9th position, just off the back of Yamaguchi, in a good little battle there for 8th spot, because Yagura's not far ahead of them either.
It is actually very curious to see them behind. Normally this trio, Iritani, Yamaguchi and Yagura, they are normally at the forefront of the class. So it's curious to see them here, but it's nice that even in this position they're giving us a good battle between them.
They're also about 18 seconds off second place, Akita. So that is quite a big gap too that's been established over the last couple of laps. And whilst you might look at the timing screen and say, yeah, but we've got the Shell Am in there. Ueda's definitely not doing any holding up, is he? So
any at all.
Any at all. Yeah. I guess you can't change the categorization for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's but during the race weekend maybe we don't do it, but then for the next race, yes, that is, I think, quite certain.
Change on that last lap for Shiraski in 13th position, up 1 spot, but now 10 seconds off his rivals in the Coppa Shell category. The yellow numbers on the left-hand side of the screen. Still close for the lead of that battle, though, and also close here for 2nd overall. Kotani looked to the inside, getting better momentum out of Spoon, but couldn't find a way through, and has decided against going for it there. But this is for leading class, 2nd overall. And ever since that little mistake on lap 1, Kotani has the pace. Oh, mistake there from Akita. I heard the lock-up, but he seemed to make the first part of the corner, and then obviously was completely in the wrong part of the circuit for the second half. So made life easy for Kotani.
And now I believe Kotani will extend the gap.
Yeah. Doesn't look like Akida is going to be under pressure either from Rueda, who clearly is fast, but a little bit far away now. Kotani quite direct through the S-bends there. Not really the swooping line that you would expect, kind of goes straight to the corner, sorting it out at the apex. Here is that battle for first in Coppa Shell. Kunihiro and Miura.
Miura, another customer that joins us for the first time in Challenge Racing this weekend. So again, a very, very nice discovery.
It does seem as though the results from the other races not necessarily reflecting what we're seeing on track here right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the very curious thing, Really, the peculiarities of Suzuka are showing us differences compared to what we saw until today. It's very, very interesting.
I mean, Fuji, also a legendary racetrack from many years of participation in racing and built in the 1970s, but has had quite major overhauls in the last 10 years or so to make it kind of a wider place with bigger runoff areas. Runoff areas are more tarmac-based rather than grass. Here at Suzuka, I mean, look at this wall-based camera. You can see how little space there is to fall off the circuit.
Yeah, and I think the challenge that they pose is very different. Fuji has this very, very technical third sector, very slow. Car placement is paramount there. Here there is a lot of fast corner, off-camber corners, blind corners, and I think it really requires completely different set of skills. So that this is maybe why we're seeing different results compared to what we're used to.
You can see a slow-moving vehicle just off the line there. That is Nozaki in the 120 that has been going a lot slower than the rest. 1-0, and that is a change for the Coppa Shell. Miura down the inside, and a nice clean move. Now, will he disappear up the road in the second half of this race, or has Kunihiro got himself an answer? And the thing that they really need to be careful of here is not squabbling too much, because they know what Kunjoy can do from third position in that class as the leader of the championship. Don't want to give him any second invitations, even if he might be up, some 14 seconds down the road.
There is also an element of tire management, to consider. Suzuka is very, very harsh on the tires, so it's these tires already made qualifying this morning, and now they have to last the whole race. Obviously, the Pirelli tires, they are
pretty cool to see the front brake discs glowing going into Spoon Curve there. I mean, it's not dark out there. You don't usually see glowing brake discs unless it's late at night.
It makes for great pictures.
I like that. Uchida all going his own way. Best lap of 2:09.4 on lap 2. Now we're down into 2:11, so as you say, tyre performance not quite as it was at the very start. But I don't expect him to be challenged at all. Kotani, by the way, only 0.4 of a second slower on that last lap. That is not bad pace at all.
This morning in qualifying, he was only a few hundredths away, so for sure this weekend he has found the pace. He was not slow before, but this weekend he's really found Uchida's pace, which is no small feat.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the gap he's pulled on Akita as well. Over 4 seconds now. What could have been, I suppose, for Katani if he hadn't fallen off the circuit at turn 6-7 on that first lap. How close could he have been to Uchida across the full 30-minute distance?
Well, the beauty of it is that he gets another shot.
Yes.
Because tomorrow there is another qualifying session and another race.
Yeah, the full reset. That's really nice that you start a fresh new day. You're not bringing a hangover of an issue that you might have had in qualifying on day one.
Yeah, it is something, that we like. We know that there are other categories in single-seaters or even GT racing that use the results of the previous race to make the grid. But we don't like it, because if you have an issue,
yeah, exactly,
even a puncture, then even your second race is ruined. Like this, as you said, full reset.
Looking at the battle now for 8th position. This is Yamaguchi ahead of Iritani. There was a little random sniff going through the S-curves. Not really anywhere where you want to be trying to make a move, but just moving around in the wing mirrors. Iritani trying to irritate Yamaguchi. Now through that slow hairpin, which with these cars with that lack of downforce will be almost creeping around, and then be so careful just to nurse the car back up to speed from those low speeds. Accelerate your way out of the hairpin through the double right-handers, and then down to here, down to Spoon, and the gap has grown, so wherever that challenge came from has disappeared for a moment. Behind them is that battle for Coppa Shell, which now has a 2-second gap between Miura and Kunihiro.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see this battle between Yamaguchi and Iritani, because they are two drivers that know each other very well. They are both racing with us since 2018. They were racing in Challenge Asia Pacific before, and so they have been racing against each other for a long time. They know the moves, they know what the other is gonna do, so I don't think it's going to be easy for Iritani to pass, not because of pace, but because Yamaguchi knows exactly what Iritani is going to do.
And how often do these guys get faced with these guys who've done years and years of racing with you? How often do they get a new car to need to master and understand?
Well, normally, I would say a challenge car lasts around 5-6 years.
Oh, wow.
We have normally a change of generation. Then after 3-4 years, we have an evolution that comes. So in this case, for example, we have 488 Challenge Evo. 488 Challenge, the first race that it ever did was 2017. And then in 2020, So 3 years later, we got the Evo version. Now we have the 296 Challenge that will come and will be racing next year in Europe and North America.
Okay.
Not yet in Asia. But so, you know, we are very close to another generational change.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find that you have masters of certain generations that end up just understanding these cars? Or are the drivers mainly not at that kind of level to fully gauge what's going on?
No, I think most drivers who are fast, they are fast on every generation, but there are some cars that have proved to be more suitable to some drivers, definitely.
Because the generation change from a 488 to a 296 it's a new car. It's not an evolution of the same kind of a chassis. So you have to start afresh. Completely,
and from one generation to another, you know, especially in the early years, we had big changes. You know, I think you will remember that the 458 didn't have any aero in the beginning, and then with the 458 Evo, we introduced rear wing and front splitters, so that brought downforce into the game, and that was a big change. Then with 488, we went from normally aspirated to twin turbo, and that changed the game as well again. And 296, in his own way, it will change the game again.
Already with famous victories to the Ferrari name. Nürburgring 24 Hours taking its first 24-hour victory. 296, and then of course the 499 taking the Le Mans victory. It's been a very big year for Ferrari in terms of headline motorsports. Maybe not in the headline category, but in all the other motorsports where, let's say argumentatively, that the competition is greater.
Yeah, honestly, we're very, very proud of what has been achieved this year. You know, obviously 499P stole the show. You know, if you think the timing of that project, you know, how everything basically has been designed from scratch in 1 year, the result, winning Le Mans, the way it was won, it is astounding. But also, as you mentioned, the 24-hour of the Nürburgring with the 296 GT3 on a track like the Nordschleife, the beating that kind of track puts on a race car. And well, you know, all the 3 cars that we had engaged, they saw the checkered flag without any issue. Well, 1 car won the overall, 1 car won Pro-Am, and 1 car was 8th overall. So I think, honestly, we could not ask for a better result.
Now we've got the new challenge for Catani and Akida here as they start to get themselves involved in a little bit of traffic. And traffic management and how to overtake through traffic. Actually not too bad when you're on your own, as Catani's just cleared the most of it. But if you are in a battle, it can really make or break a race if you find yourself on the wrong piece of tarmac trying to get past a slower vehicle. Catani's done well there, and there's still a big gap between himself and Akida. Rueda and then Deske, kind of 3 seconds between them. We've got Lowe in 6th position, and then Yagura 7th, Yamaguchi and Iritani still locked together, just half a second between them for 8th position. And then we were watching a battle for 15th as well just a few moments ago. 3 cars in that little scrap. Again, trying to get through some traffic. Here is Iritani and Yamaguchi once more.
This is what I was telling you, one thing is getting close, one thing is going through.
One thing is catching, one thing is passing, is the way we say it in English. It's a little bit easier, but it is very, very true, especially at Suzuka. It's very easy. Well, it's not very easy to actually comprehend how narrow this circuit is when you watch it on television. Especially, I don't know what it is, but when you put any kind of a race car onto a racetrack, it looks so much wider than when you go and stand out on the circuit and go, wow, how are they supposed to get a car like that through here? And how am I then supposed to overtake it all?
And the other thing that never gets through TV well is the slope, actually. So it is actually, when you were mentioning the S curves, the uphill section is really quite steep, but you don't see it on TV. It's a bit of a pity.
Oh, just missing the apex there from Yamaguchi. That was an opportunity for Iritani. He got a little bit of a slide on, a little bit of a twitch. Oh, maybe catching the traffic. What about opportunity here? No. Nozaki gets well out of the way there. I don't think they're going to have enough time to catch the rest of the traffic, with only 3.5 minutes remaining. Trying to be quite careful through the second part of the spoon. Really nursing his way through there. Not sure whether these Pirelli tyres are... Yeah, we're down another 2 seconds on what we last checked in at. So Uchida's doing a 2:13.2, Kotani 2:13.3. Bearing in mind the best lap was a 2:09.4. What you have done to your tyres in the last 25 minutes of the race, it's going to have a massive effect on how they're performing now. And Yamaguchi struggling to get out of the chicane there. The problem is, down at turn 1, it's not really an overtaking opportunity. Need to set it up for turn 2 and hope that the car in front maybe misses the apex or gets a little bit of a slide on.
He has never been as close as this.
Again, sort of sitting in the middle of the road. It's a late apex. The apex is about there through that turn. We're just checking quickly with Uchida, who's nearly got 10 seconds on Kotani. So has slightly eked out the gap, but not by huge amounts. And you have to say, on pace alone, lap by lap, if you really go into the detail here, Kotani's doing a very, very strong job. Even if it's only second position overall, it's leading his category. He's pulled a huge advantage over Akida. 15 seconds now is the gap between second and third, and he's kept Uchida honest.
Would have definitely been a different race without that mistake, you know,
Yeah.
But again, tomorrow is another day.
It's like searching for the perfect wave as a surfer. Never, ever, ever can achieve it. That perfect lap is impossible. I mean, I say that from an amateur driver perspective, of course, where the perfect lap never exists. But I think even professional racing drivers would struggle to really get everything absolutely sorted. Here's Uchida coming over the line now, with this being his last lap, or is it 30 minutes plus 1 lap?
No, it is 30 minutes,
Yeah,
so this
okay.
is the final lap.
So this will be the final lap, and there is the gap, 7.6. So it's actually on that last lap, Kotani has taken 1.5 seconds out of Uchida. It was a very slow lap from Uchida. It was an even slower lap last lap from Akita, who dropped 10 extra seconds on 1 lap alone. So I'd say that there was a mistake from the 16 car on the last lap. And one last chance then for these guys to swap positions. There is Akita. As I say, dropped from 14 seconds back to 25 seconds back on the previous lap. And so definitely had an error somewhere around our circuit. We didn't see it. He was lucky. The cameras didn't catch it.
And actually it was looking good, damage limitation in the end from Michael Choi, you know, because it's if on a day where he clearly is not in tune with the track, he brings home a 3rd place. That is how you win a championship.
Yeah, you win a championship on your bad days, not on your good days. How do you maximize your bad days? The time has elapsed then, and Uchida comes through the spoon curve. Low, slightly lower sun shining through the windscreen, getting a chance for us to see the work that the driver is doing inside the cockpit. It has been metronomic at the head of the field. He hasn't been challenged, he hasn't been pushed too much, but he's done absolutely everything required of him. Again, I think the gap will come down to Kotani because he has been pushing pretty hard behind, trying to prove a point for tomorrow. But here comes Uchida then. Victory in race 1 here in Suzuka, and that is victory in round 7 of the championship. Catani comes across the line just 6.6 back in the end with another charging lap. He is the man to watch for tomorrow. And now we have to wait some 20-odd seconds for Akita to cross the line. A mistake 2 laps from the home has grown that gap, but it's a safe second position in class, 3rd overall.
An absolutely beautiful progression during the whole season. He's getting better and better.
Desquet in 3rd position in class. And now we wait for victory in Coppa Shell and also in Coppa Shell itself. And victory goes to Ueda. And gosh, Shallam, Miura making quite a gap over Kunihiro by the end. Still waiting for Choi to pick up that 3rd spot. There was quite a gap between them before. But the gap between Miura and Kunihiro was 7.1 seconds by the end. And now Choi comes across the line. Yudai Uchida brings the car around the final couple of turns. He has done a lovely job of controlling the pace. Not a scratch on that Ferrari. But I do think he'll look back at this race, he'll look back at the times particularly, and think, Catani might have me on the ropes tomorrow if he doesn't make that mistake. It's going to be a big points haul from Motohiro Catani, who sits 7th in Pirelli Am, but with a full haul of points. It will then give him an extra 15. And that will elevate him surely up a couple of places in our championship. Eric Lowe leading that particular category, finishing in 5th position, so 4th in class. He'll be disappointed with that because he's been 4th in Fuji, but other than that, 2nd in Fuji, and other than that, 1 in all the other Fuji races, the first 2 in the championship and round 6. And was 3rd in Autopolis, where we had 1 race cancelled and 1 race just with half points. Yes, first victory for Uchida. No challenge for Uchida this weekend, which is a bit of a shame in terms of his class victory. Well, I think we might see a challenge for tomorrow from Catani. And so the provisional result then. Uchida taking victory from Motohiro Catani, Akita Desquet, and then Eric Lowe, the championship leader in that Pirelli Am championship. Yuji Ueda, the best of our Coppa Shell Am drivers, and then that great battle for Coppa Shell itself. Katsuaki Miura in 10th, Yunihiro in 11th, and Minkun Michael Choi in 12th. That's the top 3 in Coppa Shell. second in our championship in Coppa Shell. Kuamu Katayama only managing 6th position, and he was the main challenger to Michael Choi. So actually, even though it's not been that starring performance that we saw from Choi in Fuji, where he took victory in both the races, it's still, as Filippo said, damage limitation. They'll go racing again tomorrow around the same time, around 4 o'clock local time here in Japan. And you will get a chance to see a brand new grid, because they'll qualify in the morning as well. And the main question really will be whether Katani can take it to Uchida for the overall victory. A beautiful afternoon of action here in Suzuka for round 7 of the championship. Let's have a look at the highlights then. And from the pole position, Uchida was never challenged, but there was a bit more action to come from Kotani in 2nd position through turn 1, unchallenged, but then made a little bit of an error up at Dunlop, running a little bit wide through the Dunlop curve and giving away a couple of positions. Grass tracking his Ferrari 488. 1 position lost, 2 position lost. It didn't take very long for him to get back past Desgate down into turn 1. And soon he would chase down Akita, as well as Uchida just continued to grow the gap at the head of the field. Kotani had been just a couple of tenths off the very best time in qualifying, as Desgate lost another position to Ueda. Ueda made a mistake at the end and dropped a few positions, but this was the pass for 2nd spot, as Akita made a little error into the chicane. In the shell category, a change for the lead there, as Miura went down the inside of Kunihiro, and that was a change for the lead in the Coppa Shell category. Uchida taking the victory, Katani winning Pirelli and finishing 2nd overall, but at times he really had the pace to take victory. So now we get ourselves ready for our podiums. A couple of different podiums, of course, for the different categories that we have. Coppa Shell AM, Pirelli and Pirelli AM. I'm assuming we won't do a Pirelli podium because there is only 1 driver in that category this weekend. And there was a little bit of battling even at the very last lap. I think a question mark over what happened to the 138 on the last lap, or maybe not the last lap, but 1 lap from home, because Ueda, I'm sure, didn't finish in 7th position, but found himself still winning the category, but I'm sure he wasn't quite that high up. And his first experience of the championship, maybe the tyres and the degradation that everyone's experiencing was something that kind of caught him off guard. Big gaps across the top 4, with Uchida 6.6 ahead of Kotani, 25 back was Akita, 35 back was Desgate. Always like these behind-the-scenes discussions before the podium. The first opportunity the drivers get to talk to each other about all the various things that were going on, either with their races or just individually what actually happened. That's Filippo telling Michael Choi exactly the same thing as he told us on the broadcast. It was good damage limitation. And there's still a smile on Michael Choi's face as well.
The last time we raced in Suzuka was 2018. We never raced in Suzuka after that, so it's...
Oh, well, there's a fact he didn't tell us. The last time we raced in Suzuka was 2018. 5 years ago since the Trofeo has visited this world-famous circuit. Kept that fact to himself, didn't he, Filippo? And lots of plans for the championship to ever expand over the last few years, fighting with all the restrictions of COVID and fighting back to establish itself in the championships and the countries that it needs to. But this association to the dealers, requiring the dealers to enter the cars, requiring the dealers to even work on the cars as support to the drivers, even though there's not a huge amount they can do, the idea is to keep the cars very simple in terms of setup. It's a great way for the dealerships to engage in the racing properties.
ただいまよりフェラーリチャレンジトロフェオピレリジャパン2023ラウンド4レース1の暫定表彰式を行います。表彰式の進行を務めます久保田です。今回のレースはトロフェオピレリクラスの表彰対象選手が1名のため、トロフェオピレリアマクラスと合わせて表彰させていただきます。それではトロフェオピレリクラス並びにトロフェオピレリアマクラスの表彰です。トロフェオピレリアマクラスの選手からお呼びいたします。第3位はカーナンバー66コーンズ柴デスケ選手、どうぞ。第2位はカーナンバー16コーンズ名古屋秋田選手、どうぞお越しください。秋田選手。そして優勝はカーナンバー28コーンズ大阪小谷元弘選手です。どうぞ。コーンズ芝、コーンズ名古屋、コーンズ大阪と表彰台独占となりました。コーンズの皆様、続いてトロフェオピレリクラスの選手をお呼びしましょう。トロフェオピレリクラス優勝はカーナンバー1ロッソスクーデリア内田雄大選手です。どうぞお越しください。それではトロフィーの授与です。トロフェオピレリアマクラスの選手からお渡しいたします。まず3位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはスポーティングアクティビティ GT エイパック責任者フィリッポ・ザニールが行います。おめでとうございます。続きまして2位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはフェラーリジャパンモータースポーツダイレクター稲垣光次が行います。おめでとうございます。続きまして1位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはグループオブスピードスポーツ顧問正木義弘です。おめでとうございます。続きましてトロフェオピレリクラス1位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはスポーティングアクティビティ GT エイパック責任者フィリッポ・ザニールが行います。おめでとうございます。そしてトロフェオピレリクラス1位の選手にはトロフェオピレリトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはピレリジャパンモータースポーツマネージャー五木田健です。 それではフォトセッションへと参りましょう。選手の皆さんはトロフィーを高々と掲げてください。皆さん、選手が笑顔になりますように拍手をお願いいたします。
A very happy podium then for our Pirelli and Pirelli AM categories.
プレゼンターの方々もご登壇ください。皆様もう一度拍手をお願いできますでしょうか。それではプレゼンターの方々が登壇しまして、フォトセッ
And
シ
a
ョン
really
お願
lovely
いします。
family feel as well for that podium. A couple of kids up there from our various different drivers, Akita and Kotani,
皆様ご協力ありがとうございま
and
し
a
た。
rather colourful Deske as well in his
続きまして
bright
シャンパン
yellow
ファイト
grey
です。
suits and his rather strange poses.
準備を行いますので、今しばらく
Oh,
お
that's
待ちくだ
brave.
さい。
The champagne comes on
Sa-
with the
go to
girls.
the
Yeah, run, girls, because
そ
you
れで
are
は
always
参りまし
number
ょう。
one
シャン
target.
パンファイト、どうぞ。
Well, a great celebration from our Pirelli and Pirelli AM competitors.
いや、喜び爆発という感じでしたね。
And it's going to be
さあ
a
以
real
上を
race
もちまして
tomorrow
トロ
between
フェオピレリクラス
Uchida
並び
and
に
Kotani
トロフェオピ
as
レ
to
リアマクラスの暫定
whether
表彰
we
式
can
を終
see
了します。
a new overall victor
デスケ
bit
選
more
手、
of a
秋田
fight
選手、小谷選手、そして内田選手
in
おめ
our
でとうござい
second
ます。
30-minute encounter. Filippo said that Deske was colourful. He definitely is. That was the Pirelli podiums. And I think now we will have our
マイケルさんどうぞご登壇ください。
our Shell and Shellam
続いてお呼び
podiums.
しましょう。第2位はカーナンバー 192MO とイタリア国広隆一選手、どうぞお越しください。そして優勝は
this
カ
I
ーナンバー
think will be
104コーンズ
Coppa
大
Shell
阪三浦和孝選手、どうぞお越しください。
So Choi already up on the podium.
初ク
Kunihiro
ラス優勝となりました。
and Miura
続きましてジェントルマンカップの優勝
with
者、
the
発表いたしましょう。
victor
ジェントルマンカップの優
in
勝は
the
カーナン
Shell
バー 192MO とイタリア
category.
国広隆一選手です。国広選手ダブル受賞おめでとうございます。さあそれではトロフィーの授与です。まず3位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはグループオブスピードスポーツ顧問正木義弘が行います。おめでとうございます。続きまして2位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはスポーティングアクティビティ GT APAC 責任者フィリッポ・ザニールが行います。おめでとうございます。続きまして1位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはフェラーリジャパンモータースポーツダイレクター稲垣光が行います。おめでとうございます。続きましてジェントルマンカップ1位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターは引き続き稲垣光が行います。さあそれでは選手の皆さんトロフィーを高々と掲げてください。フォトセッションへと参ります。ご準備よろしいですか。参りましょう。フォトセッションどうぞお願いします。それではオフィシャルカメラマンによる、写真撮影へと参ります。引き続きお願いいたします。さあ あそれでは皆さん拍手のご協力よろしいでしょうか。メイクアビッグスマイル拍手をお願いします。
Big smiles all round on the podium.
皆様ご協力ありがとうございます。
I hope he gets to keep the child. Oh, he's been... No, he doesn't get to keep the child. The child's been taken away from him. Ah, sensible. While the champagne comes out to be sprayed.
準備よろしいでしょうか。参りましょう。シャンパンファイトどうぞ。
Now, these guys are not shy of getting their overalls covered in champagne. They'll probably use them tomorrow. It's always a consideration when it's being on the podium.
第2位カーナンバー192国広隆一選手。そして優勝はカーナンバー104コンゾ大阪三浦和孝選手です。
Oh dear. Dropping trophies on the podium now. Oh no, did he break it? Oh no, he did. Oh, that's awful.
以上をもちまして、
I'll have to do it again tomorrow and get a new one.
暫定表彰式を終了します。
I don't think that was Michael Choi, actually. Initially, I said that was. Now, looks as though teams and drivers down in the pit lane are expecting another podium.
第3位はカーナンバー124コーンズ大阪米田勝選手、どうぞお越しください。第2位はカーナンバー100オートカバリーの米岡正人選手。そして優勝はカーナンバー138オートカバリーの上田裕二選手、どうぞお越しください。それではトロフィーの授与です。3位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。
Now, these guys have got shell logos on, so maybe these are the shell category drivers. Does it say on his trophy? Maybe it'll give us a clue.
続きまして2位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはグループオブスピードスポーツ顧問正木義弘が行います。おめでとうございます。続きまして1位の選手にトロフィーが授与されます。プレゼンターはスポーティングアクティビティ GT エイパック責任者フィリッポ・ザニールが行います。おめでとうございます。それでは選手の皆さんはトロフィーを高々と掲げてください。フォトセッションお願いします。
So our Shell Am category then, with new boy Ueda, as we heard from Filippo. I wasn't quite sure how fast or slow he would be. Turns out, very fast, and categorically winning the Shell Am category. 7th overall, 14th is the next best of Yoneoki, and Yoneda finishing in 3rd position in category.
皆さんありがとうございます。続きましてシャンパンファイトへと参ります。それではご準備をお願いいたします。さあ参りましょう。シャンパンファイトどうぞ。
Champagne sprays then for our Shell Am drivers. A very tough little battle between those guys. Certainly for P3 anyway. Happy days to Ueda for joining the championship this weekend and for taking a victory straight off the bat with no experience before.
以上をもちましてフェラーリチャレンジトロフェオピレリジャパン2023ラウンド4レース1の
And that looks as though that is all our podiums done. So it is time to say goodbye for now. Join us again tomorrow where we've got live coverage of the second Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli race from Suzuka at around 4 o'clock local time. We'll see you then.